Right before the apocalypse, my sister and I awakened a system at the same time. Daji Beauty Package. While I chose the ultimate stamina package, my sister used her stunning looks to thrive in life and would turn around to mock me, her older sister, who pumped iron every day. Even if you work out and become a muscle Barbie, what's the use? It's much better to just make money with a pretty face like me. But what she didn't expect was that a month later, the extreme cold apocalypse suddenly descended, relying on my 8-pack abs and strong arms. I successfully joined the government rescue team. Because of my outstanding performance, I received a Medal of Honor from the government, enjoying endless glory. Meanwhile, my sister was accidentally crushed and had to have her leg amputated. When I went to the hospital to visit her, she pulled out a fruit knife and stabbed me like a hornet's nest. I'll choose the ultimate stamina package. When I opened my eyes again, my sister had immediately selected the ultimate stamina package. Hearing Haotian screaming in excitement like a bird, I finally confirmed I was truly reborn. I didn't expect my beauty-obsessed sister to completely change her mind. Was she reborn too? Well then, I'll just have to settle for the beautiful face. After making our choices, a burst of golden light flashed. I instantly became as flawlessly beautiful as an AI model. Meanwhile, Haotian's fat turned into muscle, making her entire body much bulkier. She touched her newly grown abs and said sarcastically, Outsmarting. This time, it's my turn to be the hero. I pretended not to understand and said sweetly, what are you talking about? Haotian looked at me suspiciously. Seeing that I didn't seem to be faking it, she grew even more smug, muttered entitled princess, and walked away. After Haotian left, I looked at my flawless face in the mirror and almost cried tears of joy. In my past lifetimes, by the time the police arrived, my head was barely attached to my body by a thin layer of skin. Even the veteran police officers who had seen it all couldn't help but feel nauseous. I died such a miserable death. Yet that psycho Haotian felt absolutely no guilt. And now, she actually wants to change her destiny. She's dreaming. But now is not the time to take revenge on her. The apocalypse is coming soon. I need to figure out how to survive this disaster first. In my past life, what hurt he? She pursued her dream of becoming a star and signed up for a beauty pageant show. The show gave her great exposure and gained her fans, but it still took that idiot 5 months to earn 500,000 yuan. Right now, I only have 1 month until the apocalypse. I must earn enough money to build a safe house. After thinking it over, I realized that livestream selling was a great way to make quick cash. No sooner said than done. That very night, I submitted my resume to all major platforms. Because of my stunning looks, almost all platforms fought to hire me immediately. I picked the platform with the highest commission rate and the most freedom in selecting products. For my first live stream, I chose down jackets, snowboot, and fluffy winter gloves. These are all items only needed in winter. But right now, it was the middle of summer. The people at the live streaming company were highly doubtful of my product. After choices, this company offered high commissions. But if I couldn't sell the goods, the penalty fees were terrifyingly high. But I had no way back. Not only did I need to make money, I also needed to save people. At first, The sales in the livestream were indeed miserable. I had to endure the sweltering heat of the studio, putting on those thick down jackets one by one to model them. I was so hot that the liquid foundation on my face was sweating off like the Amazon River. But surprisingly, more and more people started buying. Plus, I made the clothes look incredibly good, like a walking clothes hanger. Even though the sales were a bit slow, I still managed to clear out the inventory. My first stream dragged on until 1 AM. When my account balance hit 1 million yuan, I went straight to the suburbs and bought a villa with a cellar. With the remaining tens of thousands, I bought some luxury goods and jewelry. I planned to take them back to throw Haotian off my trail. As it turned out, carrying my new bags, I bumped right into Haotian coming out of the gym. She looked at the Chanel shopping bag in my hand, first with jealousy, and then with sheer disdain. Influencer money sure is easy to make, isn't it? After she said that, she looked visibly relieved. Actually, Haotian never fully dismissed the thought that I might also be reborn. She even hired someone to secretly follow me. I had noticed this a long time ago. So, before buying the house, I deliberately took a detour to a luxury boutique, browsed for a long time, and then slipped out through an inconspicuous back door. In Haotian's eyes, it just looked like I spent a long time in the store, picking out bags. Having bypassed Haotian's suspicion, I started preparing for my second livestream. For my second stream, my products were self-heating hot pots, compressed biscuits, and instant noodles. Food is the most precious commodity in the apocalypse. Actually, during the extreme cold apocalypse, if people could just stay home with the heating on, they wouldn't easily freeze to death. But precisely because they had no food, people had to go out to find supplies, which resulted in countless people freezing to death. Hoarding instant food could literally save lives in crucial moments. But the difficulty of selling in this session was much higher than the previous one, because people could easily buy these things through food delivery apps, and ordering them online meant waiting several days. So, the viewer's desire to buy wasn't strong. With no other choice, I gritted my teeth and used a VIP AI tool to generate a natural disaster map. I posted it in the comments section and used my alternate account to pretend to be a feng shui master, corroborating it. Obviously, most of the people watching my stream weren't highly educated. Seeing the rumors in the comments, they immediately panicked within a minute. The entire inventory was swept clean. The sales volume that night went off the charts. However, right at that moment, someone claiming to be a college student suddenly popped up in the livestream chat. He posted the original AI image source and said those two accounts were spreading rumors. The mood in the stream instantly flipped. Refund requests came pouring in like snowflakes. Thankfully, the people refunding only accounted for 10%. Most people figured it wasn't much money and couldn't be bothered to refund, but from then on, my livestream's reputation was ruined, and traffic took a nosedive. No matter how hard I tried, it was useless. Seeing that there was only half a month left before the apocalypse, I decisively bailed. After paying the penalty fee to the company, I still had 3 million yuan left. Holding on to this 3 million, I rushed straight to a renovation company. I demanded they completely replace the villa's exterior walls, the main doors, and the thermal insulation layer. To avoid drawing suspicion, premier événement de thème. It was to create a uniquely themed bed and breakfast, because I offered them a huge sum of money. The renovation company got it done within 2 days. After finishing that part of the plan, I prepared to go home to grab some things. But I found there was an extra man in our house. The man turned out to be Wei, Li, Haotian's new boyfriend, whom she met at the gym. I glanced at the ABS on Li Haotian's body. They were almost turning into stretch marks. So she's been spending every day on the gym treadmill, playing a game of catch me if you can with this wild man. But this man, I couldn't help but feel he looked familiar. My brain surged frantically, but I just couldn't remember who he was. Just then, Li Haotian suddenly dashed over and gave me a hard shove, then aggressively pushed my suitcase right in front of me. Li Haotian, I'm moving in with my boyfriend now. You, get out and find your own place, Achillarius. I was just worrying about not having an excuse to move out, but on second thought, it felt a bit suspicious. I caught a glimpse behind her from the corner of my eye. Géo de l'Ord. My room had already been turned into a doomsday warehouse by Li Haotian. It was piled high with winter clothes and heat packs. So, she was just afraid I'd discover her stash. I instantly put on an indignant act and yelled, Mom and Dad left this apartment for both of us. Why should I be the one to leave? The nosy neighbors in the hallway quickly gathered. Terrified of being exposed, Li Haotian had no choice but to give all the jewelry Mom had left for her. This jewelry is enough to buy out your half of the apartment. Now, hurry up and get out of my sight. On the surface, I cried like a heartbroken maiden. But the moment I turned around, I cashed in the jewelry. 500,000 yuan hit my account. Shaken off Li Haotian, I could finally hoard supplies without holding back. Me first stop the factory. I bought 3 generators. Even though the villa had underfloor heating and solar power installed, during the extreme cold apocalypse, the sun would constantly be blocked by rain and snow. When the power grid fails, all those electric heaters would be utterly useless. After purchasing the heating equipment, my wallet was instantly emptied by more than half. Budgeting carefully, I went to the farmer's market to stock up on food and water. By pure coincidence, I bumped into Li Haotian and her mystery boyfriend again. Seeing me there, her alarm bells immediately went off. Li Haotian, what are you doing here? I instantly switched back into drama, fuming with anger, as I shouted, How dare you, Li Haotian? That jewelry you gave me was all cheap, wholesale trash. The boss said it's only worth 380 yuan. I still haven't found a job, and I can't afford rent. You must give me the apartment back. Saying that, I unleashed my manicure attack, drawing a few abstract bloody scratches on her face. But she quickly snapped out of it and violently shoved me to the ground. In that exact moment, a car sped past me at full velocity. Half a step closer, and I would have been wiped out. Li Haotian looked deeply disappointed. Why didn't it send you flying? That specific scene put me in a sudden daze. In my past life, when she stabbed me, she had that exact same look on her face. On my deathbed, me. She violently twisted the knife into my stomach, en snarled. Paying for my surgery. You just wanted to see me as a joke. Why didn't you die in the apocalypse? Why are you still alive? It was then that I realized. My own biological sister actively wanted me dead, but that's fine. In this life, I'll put away Mikanness and play a good game with her. After transporting my supplies back to the villa, I immediately contacted a real estate agent, claiming I wanted to sell an apartment. Taking advantage of Haotian and her boyfriend being out, I brought the agent inside for a viewing. After looking around, I accidentally opened the storage room door. By now, it was fully packed with various survival supplies. The agent froze, shocked. Ma'am, you play être un abusant. Hoarding all this stuff. I acted flustered and quickly slammed the door shut. My sister bought all of this. I have no idea why. After viewing the storage room, I suddenly flaked out and said I wasn't selling anymore. The agent was furious and cursed me out, threatening to remember my address and make me pay. Perfect. That was exactly my plan. I was only worried he'd forget it. After digging this trap for Haotian, I happily returned to my villa. Getting out of the car, I realized the weather was abnormally cool. I picked up my phone. The weather forecast showed that instead of the usual 30 degrees, it was now only 20 degrees Celsius, with the temperature dropping off a cliff. There were only 3 days left until the apocalypse. For some unknown reason, a strong sense of unease washed over me. I began to frantically inventory my supplies just to be absolutely safe. 500 pounds of rice and flour, 300 pounds of vegetables and stewed meat, plus hundreds of boxes of instant meals, 30 barrels of diesel, enough to keep 3 generators running at full capacity for a year. At the very least, I wouldn't freeze to death. Even for sanitary pads, I stocked up enough to last me until menopause. Soap and toothpaste were also essential. If basic hygiene wasn't maintained, getting sick would mean suffering straight to the crematorium. Once the inventory was complete, I lay in bed and fell into a deep sleep. When I opened my eyes again, there were only 2 days left until the apocalypse. The temperature had plummeted to freezing. A few sensitive people had started going out to hoard supplies, but the vast majority were still leaving it to chance, thinking this was just an unusually severe cold snap that would pass in a few days. Seeing their nonchalant reactions, I felt incredibly anxious. I had no choice but to post on major social media apps, warning everyone that the extreme cold apocalypse was coming, urging them to stock up on essentials while they still could. Instead, they accused me of being a foreign spy. Soon enough, my posts were reported and banned. Whatever, I didn't care. I tried. Saving even one person is better than none. 2 days later, the extreme cold apocalypse arrived right on schedule. The temperature crashed to minus 80 degrees Celsius. I stood by the window, wiped the frost off the glass, and saw nothing but a blanket of pure white outside, with a thick layer of solid ice covering the ground. Just yesterday, there were still a few scattered cars on the road. But today, the streets resembled an empty, apocalyptic ghost town. Sure enough, a week later, people couldn't sit still anymore. The neighborhood group chat completely exploded. Does anyone have food? Anything edible works. I'll trade my Land Rover for a box of instant resident noodles of 5,602. I can share a pack with you. Does anyone have baby formula? My baby is only 5 months old and is dying of starvation. I suddenly remembered that during my hoarding run, I had received 2 free cans of goat milk formula in a buy-to-get-one deal. I immediately sent a private message to the resident of 1314. Out of caution, I told him that I only had these 2 cans. Take it or leave it. Come pick it up. yourself. The resident was so grateful. He practically wanted to call me dad. After setting the plan, I covered my entire body in heat packs, opened the door, placed the formula, and slammed it shut in one swift motion. The whole process took less than 20 seconds, yet my body had completely frozen through. Thankfully, the formula handover was successful. They even left a few apples at my doorstep, saying I could come out and get them when it wasn't as cold. Even though I didn't lack this little bit of food, this wave of kindness from strangers added a much-needed warm filter to this freezing apocalypse. Not everyone is a backstabbing snake. Like Li Haotian. Speaking of Li Haotian, I had completely forgotten to check up on how she was doing. So, huddled next to my electric heater, I clicked open the surveillance app. The camera I planted while pretending to sell the house was finally coming in handy when the video feed loaded. Premier sautat, the entire apartment was trashed like a Syrian war zone. Li Haotian and her boyfriend were tied up with thick hemp rope, screaming their lungs out for help. Help! Someone is robbing us and trying to kill us. Is anybody there? But her cries for help were quickly silenced by 3 sharp slaps across the face. Still got a big mouth, huh? Think you're so tough? Keep talking and I'll rip your tongue out for hot pot. It was the real estate agent, looking menacing. He casually picked up a filthy rag from the floor and violently stuffed it into Li Haotian's mouth. With her mouth gagged and her body immobilized, she could only watch helplessly as her hoarded supplies were hauled away. Looking at her miserable state, I felt a rush of satisfaction. Li Haotian always thought that because she was reborn and knew the script, she could easily win. But she only knew to hoard supplies. She completely forgot to fortify her doors and windows. You have to realize, in this apocalypse, no matter how scary natural disasters they can't compare to the darkness of human nature. If she had just trained seriously for a few days, combined with the stamina, talent the system gave her, she wouldn't have been pinned down and manhandled by these scrawny weaklings. But look at her. She spent her treadmill time flirting, completely wasting her physical fitness system. Fortunately, these robbers still had a shred of humanity. They left behind some food, probably enough to last them 3 days. 3 days later was the scheduled time for the government's first supply airdrop. As long as they survived these 3 days, they could make it out alive. But under severe resource scarcity and extreme conditions, the evil within human nature amplifies infinitely. For instance, with a single pack of instant noodles, Li Haotian only got to take 2 bites, while her boyfriend away ate 10 bites. In a fit of rage, Li Haotian pulled out some paraquat to spice up her boyfriend's meal. Sadly, her little trick was seen through immediately. The poisoned noodles were smashed right into her face. Her boyfriend's iron fists rained down mercilessly on her body. She was beaten half to death. In the early hours of the morning, when the temperature was lowest, she was thrown out of the house, kicked out onto the streets. Li Haotian, shivering uncontrollably, pulled out her phone, whose battery was deeply in the red, and begged me for help. Siste. Away kicked me out. Where are you? Come save me. I'm going to freeze to death. Save her. Did I not save her enough in our last life? In mi bust life stream call. When she threw a tantrum and insisted on going out, she said if she stayed inside any longer, she'd suffocate. I pleaded with her earnestly, telling her the weather was unstable. But she refused to listen. Wearing a miniskirt, she strutted downstairs. As a result, right at the complex entrance, she was buried by a sudden blizzard. I happened to be coming home from work and grabbed a shovel. Desperately shoveling as the snow kept falling. I risked my life to dig her out. But instead, she blamed me for arriving too late, causing her amputation. Later, consumed by jealousy, she actually stabbed me into a bloody pulp. Thinking of all this, my anger fled to the heavens. But I just kept watching TV, ignoring her entirely. I let Haotian's phone battery drain bit by bit. After a long time, Haotian lost her patience. Haotian, are you deaf? Why do I hear we playing on your end? Were you reborn too? Come save me right now. If you don't come and save me, I'm going to call the cops to arrest you. I glanced at the heavy snow falling outside the window. My tone was icy. I'd guess the 911 queue is backed up until New Year's. Why don't you go chat with the snowman for a bit? I remained completely unmoved, infuriating Haotian to no end. She gave up the act and just started cursing me out. But right as she shouted the first word, the call disconnected with a beep beep beep. With the phone hung up, I thought I could finally get a peaceful night's sleep. But halfway through the night, I was jolted awake by a strange noise. Buzz. It was the sound of a chainsaw cutting through an iron gate. I shot up from my bed, my hands trembling as I opened the security feed. On the screen there were men. And the leader was none other than Haotian's boyfriend. Away. They were all wearing rare, heated survival suits. God knows who they robbed them from. Bro, are you sure there are supplies in this house? Before the cold snap hit, I saw, with my own eyes, this woman sweeping the farmer's market. She transported it all to this house. Even her sister knew the apocalypse was coming. How could she not know? Saying this, the man grabbed a sledgehammer and started smashing the door. Huh? Why is this door so tough? Just as he raised his arm, his sleeve slipped down, revealing a prominent knife scar on his wrist. I remember that scar. After the apocalypse began, the Earth's magnetic field went into chaos. Some people, just like me and Haotian, awakened systems. This man was one of them. Awakened's a diamond body, resistant to both extreme cold and extreme heat. Back then, when our rescue team found out, we wanted to recruit him to fight the disaster together. But not only did this guy refuse to join, he used his system to form a gang and started robbing supplies everywhere. After robbing, he sold the supplies at exorbitant prices. But as a situation only occurred in the middle stages of the apocalypse. Could it be that my rebirth completely scrambled the timeline? It seems that when I was moving my supplies, there was no time to overthink. If I let them keep smashing, this door wouldn't hold for long. I sprinted into the room, found the switch for the high-voltage electric grid I installed earlier, and pressed it without a second thought. Honestly, this thing burns a ridiculous amount of diesel and can easily fry the generator. Normally, I'd never dare to use it. But right now, saving my life was the priority. I couldn't worry about that anymore. The next second, a chorus of agonizing screams erupted outside. Holy Shasterisk T. This be asterisk TC, H installed a high voltage grid. I'm being electrocuted. Retrait. Retreat. Now. The 4 of them fled, to manage to run, the other 2 were fried to a crisp. And one of my generators was completely wrecked. Though I lost a generator, at least I was safe, for now. But I knew deep down that these ruthless, desperate thugs would not just let this go. With their vindictive nature, they would definitely return for revenge. Sur Enog, the cameras showed them pivoting to other villas in the neighborhood. But they underestimated the complexity of human nature and the instinct for survival. The other neighbors weren't exactly pushovers either. They grabbed flower pots and stools, hurling them down from the upper floors. Working together, they managed to drive the robbers away. The neighborhood was temporarily safe, but my heart was still pounding, feeling that a greater danger was yet to come. The next day, while I was lifting dumbbells for a workout, I received another news notification on my phone. The Yingyuan residential complex was raided by armed robbers. There were several casualties. They were robbed of spicy noodles and 8 pounds of sausage. That afternoon, a Weibo notification quickly followed. Wengxin GR residential complex. Robbers armed with weapons stole winter coats and electric heaters. Residents fought back fiercely, resulting in 10 casualties. News alert after news alert made me realize that the world had completely spun out of control. Doomsday. People would commit any atrocity. I sat on my sofa as fear, anxiety, and unease washed over me like a tidal wave. At night, the power went out. The city plunged into a dead, silent darkness. I looked outside through the crack of the window, only to see the thick accumulation of snow reaching the first floor windowsills. But under the cover of this darkness, those animals would only become even more reckless. Thinking of this, I didn't care if it exposed my identity as someone who was reborn. I dialed the police directly. I spilled every single piece of information I knew to them. The officer, on the other end, fell silent for a while. And how exactly do you know all this? I still didn't want to sound too crazy, so I casually made up an excuse. My family comes from a long line of fortune tellers. Sure enough, their tone immediately turned stern, warning me not to waste public resources. Left with no choice, I sent them screenshots of the warning posts that got banned before the disaster. After they verified them, their attitude completely changed. Thank you for the clues you've provided. We will investigate and handle this as soon as possible. Hanging up the phone, I lay in bed, feeling a bit exhausted mentally, not knowing what else I could possibly do. Right now, the entire city was without power, and the neighborhood group chat had gone completely dead. Fortunately, the police occasionally contacted me, so I didn't feel entirely alone. From the police, I learned that because of their intervention, the gang of robbers had been laying low recently. But they hadn't been fully captured yet. So, the police wanted to ask me if I knew what their next move was. To be honest, I wasn't entirely sure either. In my past life, they arrogant in the darkness and exposed themselves, but now they clearly hadn't managed to steal much, hadn't made any profit, and had multiple murders on their hands. Who knows what kind of crazy things they do next. Just as I was thinking, a familiar scream suddenly came from outside the house. Sister, come save me. It's me, Haotian. In this life or death moment, it seemed the ultimate stamina package saved her life, after all. Seeing no reaction from me, Haotian kept screaming, Sister! I know I was wrong. Please don't be mad anymore. Let's team up together to save people. Okay? Just like when you played the saint in our last life. You were so awesome. Seeing that I still gave zero reaction, away viciously, slapped Haotian right to the ground. You stupid B***. Chi-Chi, didn't you say your sister would definitely save you? Wasting my CKing time. She was beaten unconscious on the snowy ground. In so much pain, she could barely breathe. The snow fell heavier and heavier, and her consciousness grew fuzzier and fuzzier. On her deathbed, she recalled kicking me out of the house right before the apocalypse. Actually, she just wanted me to lower my head, give in, and beg her just once, since we were kids. Her sister was better than her at everything. She was extremely envious, even hateful of her sister. But why did her sister just leave without even fighting for it? Sister, you finally came to see me. Didiuk no? Premier adieu. But I hate myself looking like this, even more. Enduitat leur last breath. I stood by the window. My fingers gripping the window frame so tightly that my knuckles turned white. I knew her petty little mind all too well. The more a person lacks love, the more they use outrageous antics to seek attention. With Haotian dead, I became their next target. Unfortunately, the snow was falling heavily right now. And the villa was in a remote location. It would take time for the police to arrive. It seemed I had to rely on myself. But these robbers clearly came prepared this time. They weren't foolishly trying to saw through the door anymore. Instead, they brought out ropes and climbing gear, planning to launch a sneak attack from the second floor balcony. Back when I was renovating to let some sunlight in, I hadn't completely sealed off the second floor balcony. Now, it was the weak point of the entire villa. If they managed to break in through the balcony, I'd be totally dead. By the time I rushed up to the second floor, the first robber had already climbed halfway up between the first and second floor. Fortunately, the snowy weather was doing me a favor. The tiled exterior wall was as slippery as a skating rink. He slipped and fell backwards. I managed to hold the line for a moment. But on the other side, away, pulled out anti-slip crampon. His climbing speed instantly doubled. I grabbed flower pots and smashed them down at him. But he was wearing a heavy helmet, unfazed and steady as a climbing further up. In the blink of an eye, I had thrown everything throwable on the balcony. Seeing that my defense line was about to collapse, I decisively abandoned it to save myself, ran back into the room, locked the door, and shoved every movable piece of furniture against it as a barricade. Right after I pushed the last stool into place, Away started smashing the door with earth-shattering force. Open the door. If you don't open it, I'll CK and kill you when I get in. They yelled threats, while madly hammering the door with a sledgehammer. No matter how sturdy this stainless steel door was, it couldn't withstand this kind of abuse. But there were too many supplies in the villa, and I didn't have time to move them. I broke into a cold sweat. What should I do? This time I was truly stuck, seeing that the door was about to be breached. In the nick of time, I suddenly remembered that the room on the top floor had a skylight. Then I knew exactly what to do. No sooner said than done. I slapped on heat packs, threw on my winter suit, and with all my might, hauled a barrel of diesel up to the roof next to the skylight. The -100-degree weather made it quite physically straining to open the skylight. The noise still alerted the robbers, who were focused on smashing the door. As soon as the skylight opened, well, okay, they actually tried to negotiate and flirt with me. Hey, a pretty person submits to the circumstances. Just cooperate nicely. Why fight us to the death? Yeah, exactly. We brothers definitely won't treat you poorly. Saying that, they scanned me up and down with lecherous eyes, which almost made me vomit. In the next second, I lifted the diesel barrel and poured it right down. Want me to cooperate? Not a chance, in hell. Seeing me pull out a lighter, they instantly panicked. Like headless flies, they desperately tried to run. But the lit match had already left my hand. Flames whooshed and shot up over a meter high. In the blink of an eye, they were completely engulfed in a sea of fire. Agonizing screams echoed one after another. They jumped and flailed around, but the fire only burned hotter. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, they jumped straight off the second floor and rolled frantically in the snow. This heavy snow actually became their lifesaver. Although they didn't burn to death, they suffered severe burns all over, and rolling in the icy snow gave them an immediate frostbite package. Plus the impact from jumping off the building. Both of their legs were completely shattered, without their winter gear, and severely injured. Even if Away had an indestructible diamond body, he couldn't escape the fate of freezing to death. Perhaps realizing they were about to freeze to death, they actually started frantically begging me for help. They called me heroine, grandma, queen, trying every title in the book. I thought about the people they had murdered. Before they died, they probably begged them the exact same way. But did they ever show mercy? Absolutely not. Dying like this was already getting off too easy. Thinking of this, my fury burned again. I poured a basin of cold water down onto them from the window. The cold water instantly froze solid on their bodies, making them howl in agony from the cold. At that critical moment, police sirens wailed from a distance. This time, they couldn't run away. The fully armed police officers stepped out of their vehicles and arrested the robbers. They also dragged Haotian's body away. The fire inside the house was fortunately put out by the wind and snow. It burned a large hole in the roof, but luckily, the interior wasn't completely destroyed. It became a drafty little villa. It was still barely livable. But how well I lived didn't really matter anymore, because I knew these hard days were finally coming to an end. A month later, dozens of military helicopters suddenly appeared in the sky. Previously, it was just one helicopter doing supply runs. Each household only got a tiny bit, and everyone had to tighten their belts to survive. But looking at it now, the days of starvation and thirst were finally over. Sure enough, that very evening, 3 helicopters arrived just for our neighborhood alone. Barrels of purified water were dropped one after another. Bread, instant noodles, and biscuits were tossed down box by box. This time, there were actually fresh green vegetables. To be honest, eating so much meat had given me constipation, so I didn't take anything else. Just grabbed a few bundles of vegetables. The other neighbors also received their life-saving food. I don't know who started shouting it, from which building. The government is here to save us. The motherland is finally here. In un instant que tide wave. Resounding throughout the entire city. Dear citizens, good news. Please hold on a little longer. The government has secured a massive amount of supplies and rescue operations are proceeding smoothly. Please wait in your homes for the rescue personnel. The cheers in this moment were almost loud enough to blow the roofs off. I looked up at the helicopters, feeling the hot blood rushing through my veins. Over the next 2 days, citywide water and power were gradually restored. The blizzard slowly died down, and the temperature rose back up to -20 degrees. On the 91st day of the extreme cold apocalypse, the sky officially cleared up. The temperature returned to a familiar 30 degrees Celsius. The city began its reconstruction. The streets were filled with citizens voluntarily shoveling snow. They were all wearing short sleeves, sweating profusely, but not a single person complained about the heat. I joined the snow shoveling team as well. Bichance. I ran into the mother I had helped before. The baby in her arms looked incredibly healthy and was already a year old. When she saw me, her eyes brimmed with tears of gratitude. Sister, have a piece of candy.